Shucks. With the vocal range that facilitates between 5 to 7 octaves, CeCe Peniston was the first foreign female entertainer to perform in post-apartheid South Africa. In December of 2016, Billboard magazine named her among the 100 top dance club artists of all time. And remember, in the early 1990s, she scored 5, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 #1 hits on the U.S. Billboard Hot Dance Music and Club Play, including her signature song, Finally. And we got her here, finally. The one and only CeCe Peniston. Welcome.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Oh,
Thank you. Thanks for all the love. It's funny sometimes as an artist when you hear back the things that you've done, it's like you see it written down, but when someone gives it back to you, it's such a blessing to know that I've been able to be in the business since the 90s. So thanks for having me.
well, you have left your mark, and we know that you still have more to give, and we really appreciate having you. That opening video there, what was that like? Take us back there for a moment.
Man, it was just so crazy because, Love Thing, finally, when it came out in the 90s, I was so new to the music business. I was like 21 years old. I had done background vocals for Overweight Pooch at the time. Hey, Thomasina. I had done background vocals for her, and they said, hey, do you have a song of your own? And I was like, yeah, I do. I had the song, but I'm not sure if you're going to like it. It turned out to be Finally, and they loved it. Hence, we go forward, like they love Finally. They were like, hey, we want to make sure that, we get an album done behind this. So then Love Thing, Keep on Walking came after that. And so it was funny. It was like this crazy mixed up thing of dance, R&B, and like ballads all mixed up in one.
Yeah, so I know that you don't go into the studio saying I'm going to make a #1 hit. Something has to really be the impetus for you, for artists, right? To put that pen to paper and that those words down and then start to belt it out. What was it for you when you went in that 5 straight top hits? What was going through your mind? What was inspiring you at the time?
It was so overwhelming to be able to, like, as a child, I was 11 years old. My brothers and sisters always said, you always said you were going to be, my name's going to be in lights when I was 11. They were like, go outside and play. Ain't nobody thinking about you, right? So when everything came out, they were like, we were surprised, but we weren't surprised. So then all of a sudden it's like finally comes out. I'm traveling the world. I'm seeing all these different places on the map as a child. And now I'm touching those places that I've seen. And so for me, I was like, oh, okay. So I finally get a chance to see Bali, and I get a chance to see Africa, and I get a chance to see like people love music and love artistry over here too. So in my mind, I was actually overwhelmed because to be able to walk down the street, I remember one time I was walking down the street in New York City. Someone was like, hey, CeCe. And I was like, how do they know me? Like out of all these people, walking down the street. So it was an amazing feeling for real.
Well, and you mentioned that walking down the street, strangers, total strangers calling you out. Does that get, that gets overwhelming? Is that weird? I mean, I would imagine it's kind of weird, but does that get overwhelming?
You know what? It can be sometimes the fact that people still know. It's not overwhelming in the fact because I'm always flattered by the fact that people still love my music to this day. So I'm appreciative when people be like, yo, CeCe, what's up? I'll be like, hey, the fact that they still love me, I'm thankful because I feel like people don't have to give you anything. So the fact that they still love it is a blessing. But as far as am I surprised? Yeah, I am sometimes because, you just being you. Walking out on a normal day and someone's like, hey, what's up? And you're like, oh, hey, what's up?
Well, you were really at the top of the game, right? And at a time where there was the Whitney Houstons of the world, of course, you had the Janet Jacksons. Was there ever a sense of competition?
You know what? I feel like as a woman, they make it harder at that time. And even now, they made it harder for us because it was like, how are you photographing on camera? How is your hair looking? How do your lashes look? Are you keeping the same look so people even notice you? In fact, the label got on me because I was like, I want to do blonde hair. I want to do dark hair. They were like, hey, too many looks. Please just stick in one lane. And it's funny because now people are like, we don't want to see the same thing. We want to see something different. Like when Atlanta Housewives came out, they were like, Look, every scene has a different hairstyle, so it's just different right now. But then they wanted the familiarity of who you were.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of those artists, was there any artists, any male or female or male, that you said, yeah, I want to be like her or him?
It was always like I always looked at Patti LaBelle and I loved her. And the reason I loved her was because she was so off the cuff. She would just say what she wanted. She would take off her lashes. Like if she had her pantyhose running up her legs, she'd be like, "Oh my God, my pantyhose are running." And I feel like I'm a lot like that on stage. I'm really real. I'll just say what's going on. I'll be like, "Okay." You know, and people laugh at me that know because they're like, I know you and I know you saw X, Y, and Z, right? So, but I love her. I love her, the freedom that she has. I love her vocal ability. Like there's never been another Patty and there never will be.
Yeah, I remember going to a concert in Los Angeles at the Coliseum. It was a Budweiser Superfest, and Patty was one of the headliners. And I remember her talking about how her feet was hurting, and she said, "Anybody want to come up here and help me take my shoes off?" You know, so
Right.
that's
And that's
so
the part that I
I
love
know what
about her. Right. Because that's something I would do. I'll be like, hold on, y'all. Hold on just a minute. Let me. Yeah. Because I remember one time I was having cramps in the back of my leg and I was like, oh, I got to take these shoes off right now. And then they had some shoes like by the side for me. Right. So sometimes you have to just either keep it real or go through the pain. Which one are you going to do?
so what did you do most? Did you keep it real or just go through the pain?
No, I kept it real. I always keep it real. I'll be like, hold on, y'all. Let me straighten out my hair. Let me do this. Like they laugh at me because one time my piece was sliding to the left. I said, let me straighten this out. Let me get it before y'all get it. Because I know y'all gonna get it, you know?
Terrible, terrible. But you know, speaking of concerts, you've performed in front of tens of thousands of people, right? So what is that like when you go on that stage? What's the adrenaline like?
I get anxiety every time. People probably really wouldn't believe that about me. I still be like, oh, my heart is beating a million miles a minute. That's just how I am. And I think just because I still care, I'm like, if my heart starts like getting that little thing, that butterflies in my stomach stops, I'm gonna be like, maybe you need to stop. Because I feel like that's the thing that tells me that I care. I care about how I sing. I care about how I perform, all those things. So I think that's the difference. So I'm happy they're there, but sometimes it's like, oh, I wish they would go away. But they've always been there since the 90s.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know when it seems for some when it's all over with, right? The
Yeah.
hardest thing is to walk away because you have that adulation, the cheering from the crowd. Is that a do you find that the hardest thing to do for artists today, and I'm not speaking of you specifically because you're still here and you still seem like you got a lot more to give, but Tina Turner walked away. She said, I've done enough. Is that hard?
I think it depends on the person. You have to have balance. And I'm gonna be honest with you, since I've been in pandemic and corona, like I have been traveling for so many years. I'm like, I actually get to see the shell of my house. I actually get to home. I actually get to enjoy a home that I have purchased. Like, for me, it's been a little bit different. I've used it as spiritual growth, but I think it's probably like if you're new to performing, you're in your 20s, you just started, everything is moving. You're like, dang, I just got started and everything stopped. But if you're an artist like myself who's been traveling for a minute, you're like, I'm happy to get a second off. Like, regardless of the circumstances, not happy about the circumstances and everything that surrounds it because there's so much heaviness and anxiety in the world. But however, if you look at it from your personal point of view and try to use it as spiritual growth, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, we are talking with the legendary CeCe Peniston. This is Black Press Fire broadcast. CeCe, you are best known, of course, for all the contributions to dance music. But what are some of the other music styles that you like to perform?
People probably have heard me do ballads. I've done ballads. I've done jazz. I've done some songs with Bob Baldwin that are jazz. I've done EDM songs. I've definitely done R&B. You already can hear that with "Keep on Walking," "Out Over You," "I'm in the Mood." People always tell me, "You need to pick a lane." I'm like, why? Why can't I just be the circle in a square? Why do I have to do what you say? And I often get in trouble for that, but I feel like in the age that we're in, where you can be the record company, let's say it's a song that I don't use, but a commercial likes it, then it can be used for that. So I just don't feel like you have to be in a box. And when I started, I started off in the church doing gospel music. So for me to go from the church doing gospel music and then doing dance music, nothing is foreign for me, but for other people it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, we often like to let our viewers, your fans, have their comments heard. We'll just mention Mary Walker right now. She says, "Hey, she was dancing,"
Hey,
and
Mary.
and you know Thomasina. He says, "Take off a shoe in a minute." So,
That
take off a shoe in a minute, huh? That's you, huh?
yeah, that's me. You heard. On a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute.
So, CeCe, we look at the landscape today, right? You know, obviously, when folks think about the cream of the crop right now, the cream of the crop right now, they're thinking Beyonce and Rihanna, Taylor Swift, people like that. Is there anyone today that perhaps you haven't worked with, you'd like to work with?
Man, you know what? It's funny because I talked to, he's a producer, not new to the game, but have worked with some great people, Jackie's boy. And if you go look him up, he's on Instagram, Grammy Award winning. And we just talked about doing a collaboration together. So I'm excited about doing something with him. The song he sent me today, man, it gave me chills. And I was sitting here like, the funny thing is how we got connected was he was on another platform, right? And he was like, can this person sing or can they sing, right? And he was like, oh, she can sing. And he said, I can sing. And I did, right? I was like, thanks for the shout out, right? He said, let's do work. I said, okay, let's do it. Or either I said, let's do it. Either way, we connected and like we're making it happen. So right now, if I said anybody in this moment, it would be him. And then I have a single coming out actually on Sony called City Lights. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to everybody hearing that.
Yeah, when is that coming out? Do you have a date yet?
Well, actually, really soon because I just finished the vocals, so it should be coming out soon. Oh, Bob Baldwin. I just did a jazz project with him. Betcha by golly wow. Marion Meadows played on the track, and he just sent it to me. So I can't wait to put it out there for everybody to hear. So a couple little
Yeah.
things.
So, so we've had recent weeks, we've had Mary Wilson of the Supremes, Jody Watley was on, Otis Williams of the Temptations was on. You think about those individuals and what they did for music, particularly the Temptations and the Supremes. Is there someone that, and I guess in another way I've asked this question, but when you think about music's history, is there someone that you modeled yourself a little bit after?
If I had to say, it would probably be a mix between probably like I loved Billie when I was young. I used to listen to Billie Holiday all the time. In fact, my mom used to kick my brother out of his room and be like, "Let your sister practice." It's so mad. So it was Billie Holiday, a mix of Patti LaBelle and Chaka Khan probably would be like my mixture because of like kind of how I end song the endings I do on songs and the phrasing I do and just the energy. I would say those are the three people.
Yeah. So, and CeCe, what goes into a tour? We often, as fans, we get the finished product. We get to see the performance on stage, but it's a lot more than that. I'm sure that has to go into it.
Definitely it is. So let's say you do your show at 8 o'clock, right? You do your show, you have to be ready by probably 7 o'clock to check in. That means you have to start hair and makeup at 5 o'clock or so, right? Say you have a radio interview or just different things you got going on, your personal stuff that you actually have to start your day like really early in the morning. And then after you do the show, there's a meet and greet, right? After the meet and greet, you're probably going on to the next city. So it's like an ongoing thing. And remember, there was sound check earlier in the day as well. So it's like there's a lot of little steps to making sure it's your hair and makeup, it's your sound check, it's making sure your DJ is right, your band is good, it's hey making sure the hair is in place, making we have different pieces, at least I do, to make it easier. It's making sure you do your meet and greets, it's making sure you get in touch with everybody, and hey, these are the notes for stage, because every venue is different. So making sure the sound is right, you got your sound guy. There's so many little things, but that's why people always say, hey, you have to enjoy what you do, because people don't understand the grind, and it can really be a lot, but it's joyful. It's a beautiful moment when you hit the stage and you see people jamming to your music, and you're like this, then you're like, oh, it was all worth it. Yes.
and it's a lot of work, but I went to a show in 2004 at Club Black in New York, Prince. So Prince came on the stage at 2 a.m. and he left the stage, it was close to 6 a.m. What drives a performer to do something like that and seem to be so effortlessly? We're there, we're cheering him on, but we're much more tired than he is. What drives you guys?
So I think it's just the fact that the appreciation of the music and the time that we put in to create a body of work in the first place, that people know, for one, all the words. They're singing all the words. They know the melody. They're reacting to you in person. They tell you, hey, I love you. I think those are all the things that drive a performer. Now, I haven't personally done a 4-hour show. I've done like maybe an hour and 15. So I'm going to give him kudos, because that's a long time. Like, but Prince was somebody that was so unique in this world. Like, there will never be another him. There's just certain people I feel that came into this world, him, Whitney, like there just will never be another. And we miss those people with that. Then there's different models, and we say, hey, I want to model myself after that person. So you see a familiarity in different artists now, but there will never be another.
Well, who closely mirrors CeCe Peniston today?
Man, you know what? I don't know. That would probably be up to the public to say, hey, like, I think this person, like, okay, so, but people told me, like, hey, you remind me of Raven Simone. But she's an actress. They're like, you guys kind of remind me of each other. And I'm like, okay, I see that. Lisa Ray, sometimes they tell me, like, we have a familiar look.
I can see Lisa Ray, yeah.
They say you have a familiar look, and I say, okay. But there's only one you. And I think that there's always going to be mirrors in your face, but you have to be uniquely you, yourself.
Yeah. CeCe Peniston, the great CeCe Peniston, we were talking to, is Black Music Appreciation Month, and it's such a privilege to have the legendary CeCe Peniston. CeCe, what are your thoughts about singers today, singers of any day, who have the studio to thank more for their fame than their ability? Now, we're not asking you to name names, unless, of course, you want to.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a moment where people who can sing, they will know. People who can't sing, guess what? You'll know that too. Because people are not always doing lives, or they're doing lives, right? But they're not always in the studio when they're doing those. They're at home. Some people have a mic, and then there's also like different platforms where now artists are doing, like, there's 20 people. Like I did That's What Friends Are For. I did Heal the World for Juwan Murray, right? And I did something for Silver Logan Sharp. So you have to be at home, and you're not always in the studio. So people get to hear your real voice. So it's up to the public to say, oh, no, they can sing. Without the mic.
Well, and to your point, and again, we're not naming names, so we'll spare some people. But I remember a performance of Secret Garden, and I'm probably giving it away, but this was back in the early '90s, and you had all of who was on that Quincy Jones production, right? And you had all the voices, and it was a live show, and only one of them, I think it was 6 of them singing, only one of them was singing voice to track at the time, and it was so obvious because the other ones were live. So as Sakina Bundy, who writes in, I see that I see that too, but she was talking more of the comparison to Lisa Ray and perhaps Raven Simone. Are you doing
Okay.
any?
Hey, girl.
Are you doing any producing or artist development at all?
You know what? I actually found somebody, and it's funny. Let me tell you this story. I was in an Uber probably about 2 years ago, and there was a guy there. He was like, "Hey, I do music." I said, "Play me some stuff." He was like, "Okay." So he played me his music, and I said, "Finish your music. You sound amazing." I said, I think you should finish it up." 2 years later, he hits me back. This was probably about 3 weeks ago. He said, "CeCe," he hits me in the DM. "I got my music done," and I was like, "That sounds amazing. I'm so glad you finished it." I forwarded it over to a couple of my friends. They were like, "That's amazing." So guess what? Now they want to give him a publishing deal. They were like, "Hey,
Wow.
you want to give him a deal?" And I'm like, people just don't know sometimes the relationship that you create with somebody on a random moment can be like the biggest like blessing that you have ever received in your life.
Yeah, well, I got the great CeCe Peniston here, but I'm not going to share my great singing talent right now. You know,
Oh, come on, look, come on, let's
I'll
go,
save it for like Thomasina, okay? So just so you'll know, so don't, this is not going to be another Uber situation, all right?
boo. It's all good.
Our one of your fans, Scott Survivor, writes in. He says that he just tuned in. He asked, "Have we asked you about new producers you enjoy?" He says she has worked with some of the best dance producers club of all time.
Thank you. Like I said, the Jackie's Boy, who's a Grammy award-winning artist, co-sound Tony Dixon. They call him Antonio. Antonio Dixon. He's worked with Babyface. He did "Hot for Me." That was on my label. So I'm sure there's more to come as time goes on. And I don't want to give everything away, y'all, about everything I'm doing until it's and Bob and Mary Meadows. But I want to make sure that I have things done. I'm one of those people. Oh, and Matt Stuntman. We just talked about doing something together. He had that song, "I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it." Remember that, right?
Yep.
So we have talked about doing some things, but I'm one of those people, I like to get it done before I make a whole bunch of announcements. So that's why I'm like that. I like to get it done because then people come back later and say, "What happened to that project from like blah, blah, blah?"
And they
I'm just
hold it
keeping
over
it
your head.
real. People want to hear
Yeah.
it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So again, we were talking about those great hits from the '90s. When you were doing it at the time, what were some of the demands that were put on you outside of performing? I'm sure there was a lot of demand on your time. What was that like?
Definitely interviews. Sometimes it's like 9 to 5, not giving me a lunch break. I'm like, "Can I eat? Please? Thank you." So it was like that. Then it was like sometimes my weight would fluctuate. So that's why I got into fitness because my weight would fluctuate. I would have a whole bunch of biscuits and gravy. And then I would be like thin. So I said, "You want to work this out. I don't know what you're going to do, but you got to work this out." So that's why I got into fitness because it was funny. I told somebody, "I only ate once today." They were like, "Well, what did you eat?" And I told them what I ate. They were like, "That's like 2,500 calories." I said, "Oh." So I learned that like what you eat, not necessarily that you ate once. And so
Okay.
it was the look, it was, the vibe. It could be vocally that, it could be a song. "Hey, I want you to do this song. I think it'll be really great for you." And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm not really feeling that." They're like, "No, trust me. I think this will be great for you." So sometimes I had to back up and say, "Okay, let me just do a demo of it. If it sounds good, then we can go from there." So it was that type of thing. And then
So
traveling. So in between, so the first album was done in 3 months. So it's in between traveling. They're like, "You have studio." I'm like, I wanted to sleep. So it was those things. Sorry.
no problem at all. So one of the demands of your time with interviews and keeping you from eating. So the black press is keeping you from dinner at all tonight?
No, not at all. Not at all. I've actually been in quarantine on my fitness stuff, eating healthy, just making sure I come out of quarantine in a good space. So yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So we detect we detect, CeCe, a Southern twang. What's up with that?
You know what? I don't know where that really came from. People always tease me about that. They're like, how do you have a Southern twang in your voice? And I'm like, probably because some of my folks are from Georgia. Like when I tell you, like my whole family's from Georgia, my grandmother would be like, don't date nobody in Georgia, baby, because you know, there might be a cousin. Don't be dating nobody out there. And I was like, dang, Granny, you know, just, you know. Look, so I think that's what probably people hear from me as far as traveling around and hearing that in my voice. Yeah, I get a
Yeah.
little bit from different places.
Oh, okay. Well, I got you. Well, Tina Turner, she was from what, Nutbush, Tennessee, and you talk to her today, and all you hear is that English accent.
I know I throw people off. You want to hear something funny? So I was talking to a producer out of England, and he called me and he said, "Hello, CeCe," and I said, "Hello, darling. Are you okay? You're right." And he was like, "CeCe," I said, "Yes, darling. You okay?" He was like, "Yes." He was like, "You sound too much like everybody from England. You threw me off." So
So you
sometimes
just be messing with folks.
I like to throw people off sometimes, just having fun. That's something that I do. Like I created cartoon voices that I can do. I was working on cartoon with Overtime Sims. He's somebody that did the Keep on Walking challenge for me. And he's like, hey, I do cartoons. So I've been working on that as well. So I do little voices and stuff.
Are you going to give us one?
Do you want one or two? You do?
Go ahead.
Oh my God, Stacey. Oh my goodness. Thanks for having me on the show, honey.
Then I do a guy's. I talk to you, know what I mean?
Oh, gosh.
They're like, why did you put your voice so low?
That's interesting, to say the least. We didn't expect
I
that from
know,
CeCe
because you're seeing
Peniston.
all these lashes and lip gloss and stuff, and then my voice went like four octaves down.
Oh, gosh. So, CeCe, in all seriousness, though, uh, what's your favorite song that you recorded?
I know you're gonna probably laugh, but one of the favorite songs I did was probably "Inside I Cried," and I think it was because what went into it and what was behind it when I did it. I feel like as an artist, so many times, like we cry on the inside, but people don't see it. We have to give y'all our game face because you came to our concert. And so our job is to make your bad day a beautiful day. So that was one of my faves. Keep on Walking was too, because it was like I had to match the cadence of everything I did. It was like sitting, waiting, anticipating, waiting for your call. Tossing, turning, my heart's burning from the things I saw. Everything had to match. You know what I mean? So when I had to match it, it was like, he was like, no, do it again. You know?
So, oftentimes we hear about a person's team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important that you have the right team, I'm sure. And I know that you work with one of the more intelligent women I've had the pleasure of meeting, in this Thomasina.
Yes.
How important it is to have a team that is like, say, a Thomasina, who's very intelligent, who's acute to who knows what's going on.
It's definitely important because I have to have somebody. My team is 3 people now. It's my brother, his assistant, and me. Because and oh, Byron too. Byron is like my business partner, so he has his own thing outside of me. So but anyway, you get it. So the reason I say that is you have to have people that understand what you mean when you're not there. That's huge. So if something comes up, they're like, no, she's not going to go for that. I know her, she's not going to be happy about that. Or hey, she's going to love that. I know she's going to love that. So yeah, that's a yes. So you have to have people that can understand your scheduling, understand your person, your moods, all of that. Just life in general. It's really important for real because guess what? The sound guy has to understand. I don't like when you put too much reverb. I shouldn't have to tell you from the stage because you worked with me for a whole couple of years. The band should know when I turn my arm around like this, boom. That means guess what? stop. Or if you're working with the road manager checks you in and they're like, hey, the room is this. They're like, you know what I'm saying? So all, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Artists are particular spirits. They're particular energy, right? And we don't mean to be difficult, but it sometimes takes like those 5 little things that we like that just go, oh, I'm in my happy space right now. Now you're going to get everything that I need. And it's because, you know what? We're not at home. When we're on the road, we have to make a home on the road in every hotel that we go in. And so that's what people don't understand. So when you make your home, it's those 5 little things that we ask for. We're not being difficult, but it makes us feel at home.
Gotcha. Well, obviously I've experienced all that, my 10 gold records and all that stuff, but
If you better come on.
Earlier you mentioned, those voices and the characters. Is acting something that you want to pursue further?
Absolutely. Definitely. Because I feel like being an actress is something that you're not every single day. And I like the idea of that. I like to channel my energy and be like, if you saw this character, who would you be? How would the character look? How would they sound? What would be the vibe? How would they dress? So for me, it's like very interesting because it takes a lot to be an actress. Imagine going out in public like Denzel, right? And you're not your normal self, but you're not your normal self because you're being a character. So when people are approaching you, you're like, no, I'm this character, but you're approaching me as Denzel. So you can't come out of character. So it's a process, definitely.
Is there a role that you see right now that has CeCe Peniston's name all over it?
I actually have one, but I can't say what it is yet. I have a script.
Ah,
Look, I can't.
listen, whisper it. Nobody's listening. Whisper it to me.
I can't. I can't. But I've been doing my research during quarantine on the computer about this script, right? And it's been interesting to see like how would I channel me into them.
Hmm.
Yes.
Wow. It's going to be interesting. We've seen obviously a lot of musicians, certainly a lot of hip hop artists become actors. I mean, Ice Cube is one of the biggest actors in the world now.
Right.
Did you see that when let's go back to the 90s again for a moment. Were you able to see that back then that this was going to happen? Will Smith, Ice Cube, even Ice-T on SUV.
Mm-hmm.
It's been quite the revelation.
You know what? I saw it for myself, but what I realized is when I first came in the music business, I was very naive. I was from Arizona. I was 21 years old. I had come from the church. I hadn't traveled the world. I hadn't seen a lot. I hadn't really dated a lot. I actually got married like right away when I got into the music business. So for me, I hadn't experienced enough of life to really give life to another character. I feel like you have to go through life and say, you know what, I can see that. I've been through that. Or going through a struggle, which I went through. I've gone through hard times. I've been through the good, the bad, the ugly, and indifferent. And I think, and I know, in fact, not I think, I know that's why I am compassionate to other people or their situations. And being an artist, I know God has blessed me with a lot, but I give it back because I already
Yeah.
know I've been through it and I know how it feels.
Yeah, earlier we were talking about concerts, and sometimes you look at the riders that the artists have. I seen, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, like Stevie Wonder, and his rider is a certain color
I love
piano,
him.
right?
Yes.
And certain color piano, and then you wonder, well, does it matter what color the Stevie? But what's the craziest item that you have had as a contract, a writer in your contract?
I like my Rhinestone mic cover. I'm like real funny about that. I like my Rhinestone mic cover. I've had different things on stage, like different props. And so it hasn't been just one thing, it's been different things throughout the years. And those little things I feel like make the stage pop, make you tick as an artist. And I think that people, when they see a visual, they want you to paint a picture for them and say, oh, I didn't see that. Okay. that makes the whole thing come together. You know what I mean? So you have
Yeah.
to have little things to make the crowd please, because I feel like in the industry, a lot of people are jaded now because they've seen so much that you have to really hit them when they go, okay, now that is what I'm talking about. Because we've seen too much. The world has been exposed to so many different things, good, bad, and indifferent, and they've seen artists do different things. That's why I don't like to do normal, and I sometimes get in trouble for that. I try not to rock the boat too much, but I really try to do things differently. And if I can't do it like really differently like I like, I'd rather not do it.
Yeah. Well, hey, like you said earlier, right? Keeping it real.
Yeah,
So,
100, always. Yes.
so some more fans. I just wanted to make sure we don't exclude the viewers. William Hanford Lee Jr. says, "Hey, CeCe,
Hey,
um,
William.
Cheryl, Cheryl Fleming, love, love, love your music."
Tell us thank you,
And
Cheryl.
and Michelle Evans Oliver said she mentions Cassandra Boyd Willis.
Yeah,
So I guess
I
they're
need
saying
to
hello.
yes. Send my love. Hey, hey, hey. Yes.
So, CeCe, any advice for young performers just starting out and trying to break into the industry?
Definitely like stay focused. Know that there's always somebody around the corner that wants this dream. They want to perform, they want to do music. Make sure you really want to do it because it comes with a lot. It's the streaming, it's keeping on top of everything that's going on, it's being in the artistry as an artist. How about just enjoying during a time like this? And it's funny because I had a couple of people hit me up and I'm like, I don't feel like singing right this minute, and I don't feel like, we have moments too where we're just like, hey, I'm in a human moment, I don't feel like being on. I'm seeing everything that's around me. And so, like I said, our job is to make the bad the good, is to soothe your soul. And so for me, sometimes I do more speaking through music than actually talking on social media. People look at my posts and stuff. I speak a lot through song because I know that music is healing and it's good for the soul.
Yeah. So, CeCe, what other music do you listen to? Is there an artist or artist that you have to listen to when you in your playlist? You have a playlist. A certain artist, does that artist have to be in that playlist when you relaxing at home or at a party?
You know what? I have been listening to New Edition a lot. I listen to Nina Simone. I listen to opera. I listen to Pavarotti. I listen to jazz music. I listen to a lot of different types of music because I feel like, oh, Hector Lavoe. I listen to India Irie. Like I like a lot of different things because I feel like that makes me more well rounded. I don't like to
Yeah.
just listen to one type of music.
What is it like? You walk into a party. I invite you to a party. You walk in and they're playing CeCe Peniston. What is that like?
Sometimes it's overwhelming for me. I mean, I don't really know how to express it, but I'm always thankful. I'm like, dang, they playing my music. I was like, okay, that's what's up. Or someone will send me a picture, be like, hey, girl, I'm in Home Depot. They're playing you. I'm like, hey, girl. So I'm always thankful because I really like in my mind. I had no idea Finally was gonna just do what it did. Some people get songs and like they don't last like how Finally has. There's something about Finally, the beat, the energy, the words that people, it resonates with the world. And so for me, I'm like, this was a poem that turned into a song that turned into a career. And here we are.
Wow. Yeah. How about that? Sharon Moore sends her love. She says, such a professional. Love ya.
Thank you, girl.
Um, Annette Phillips, I want you to know we appreciate Annette Phillips. Annette Phillips watches all of our broadcasts, and we really appreciate her. And she's saying hello to you as well.
Tell her, hey girl, I'm grabbing my plug, just so y'all know. I'm grabbing my plug because
we,
I'm
we,
about to run out of power.
and as we're taken into the bedroom of CeCe Peniston, isn't that
Listen,
something? Only on Black Press Live do we get to visit
look,
the bedroom of CeCe Peniston.
right. Good thing I had the bed made and cleaned up too. Look.
Stephanie Teal writes in also, CeCe. She says, hi, CeCe Peniston. She says, I played your music on repeat from start to finish. Blessings to you.
Oh, tell her I said thank you. Thank you. Blessings back, sis. I really appreciate you for that. Thank you so much. Thanks for supporting me. I appreciate you. Okay, now I'm
Yeah.
plugged.
You good now, CeCe?
I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good.
So we talked a lot about the 5 hits that you just hit everybody with back to back to back. There's been many awards, accolades. What's been the high point for you personally? What was the one thing that you can point to, if there's one thing you can point to where you just was able to sit back and say, yeah, now this I appreciate?
So it was actually going to Africa after apartheid. You know, the fact that I created history, the fact that I was there with all the historical things going on in Africa, the fact that when I got on stage, people knew my music, and I was sitting there like, all the way in Africa, they love dance music. It was like, finally had so many different meanings. Finally, apartheid is over. Finally, I'm here. Finally, you know, we are in a place of, you know, making things in the right place. You know what I'm saying? Like we're at the start. We're not at the finish, but we're at the start. So, you know, just all those things. It's like I got goosebumps just being on the stage because I could feel the energy of the people, and they were like, "Man, we just needed an outlet." Just like now with pandemic and corona and everything going on right now, I feel like people, by the time everybody gets out, they're probably going to be like, "We wanted to get out," you know. But I really feel like even through the bad, there's always the God blessed or the God used, right? And I feel like there's some God blessed, and the good things that happen are God blessed, and the bad things that are happening are God used. So no matter what we're going through right now, it's going to be for the man above, period.
Yeah, you mentioned a few times about the quarantine. There's the quarantine, and we still have a pandemic, right? And of course,
Right.
there's been all this unrest that's been going on. Music seems to have always been at the forefront of healing, right? So,
Right.
any thoughts on the current climate of unrest and uncertainty?
You know, there's so many different reports out there. It's almost overwhelming. You almost don't know what to believe. But what you can say is people have stepped up to the plate and they've shown exactly who they are. Um, Being a Black woman and seeing everything that's going on right now, I'm proud to say that I see everybody out there saying, hey, we have a voice, we want it to be heard, which we've been saying for a long time. But you know what I think? I think things are different now. I think it's being heard differently now. That
Yeah,
doesn't mean that we're done. That doesn't mean that we're done. That means, again, like I said, going after apartheid, that means we're starting to get a new narrative on the climate of the world right now. And I think going forward, I think people are going to be listening a little bit differently. It doesn't mean that everybody's there yet and understands the climate of everything, but we got a different voice in place because I think we pushed, things were pushed, everything was pushed much harder. You know, when you have all 50 states protesting on what's right and what's not, that says something different. We protested before, but it wasn't all 50 states, and it wasn't Europe. It wasn't Paris. It wasn't Sweden and Switzerland. Just different. It was just like a different energy.
yeah, and you actually have a song that's called "I Can't Breathe." So can you
Yes.
talk briefly about that?
Absolutely. You know, when I did that song, I felt like people didn't hear me. They didn't understand me. And I said, if they can't hear me, I know they can't hear everybody in the whole wide world. And I know they didn't hear George Floyd. And I know they didn't hear everybody else who said I couldn't breathe. Eric Garner and all these different people that said, I can't breathe. And I can't breathe is not just always breathing from the chest. I can't breathe means you're not listening to me. I'm not being heard. You're not understanding. And I think that when people get to the point where they're compassionate and understanding the movement of what other people are trying to say, and are truly tuned in to saying, That hasn't been my experience. However, I want to understand yours. I think we'll be in a different place.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned the quarantine. During the quarantine, CeCe, I'm confident that you've noticed that a lot of artists have been canceled during the quarantine because they don't know what else to
Yes.
do. So it brings up the question about responsibility when you're in a position of a CeCe Peniston, when you're in a position of a Jay-Z or Lionel Richie or whomever. Can you speak to that? Because people look at you guys, you entertainers and you superstars, a little differently. Speak to that responsibility, because that saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Speak to that.
I feel like if something is within your heart, and I have 92,000 followers, and I have a platform, that there should be something on my platform that says who I am and how I feel, and that I support whatever's going on. And it should be like, you know what? I get her. Like when people look at my platform, they should say, I get CeCe Peniston. She's a Black woman. She's supportive. She understands everything that's going on right now. As an artist, I just feel like there is a duty. People do look to us to say something. It's like when you're quiet, it's like, how are you going to be going off about something minute, but then when something huge is going on, you don't have nothing to say? I think that people do look at that. What that is another thing. I feel like you shouldn't get on platforms that you don't understand. And I don't feel like you should speak out of turn. However, if you're somebody that believes in your heart that there's an injustice, as the whole world does, that you should say something. And that's our duty as artists, whether it be through song, which is my best place to do it. I like doing it that way because I sing. And so it's almost like when I sing, sometimes I scream. It's like, that's my way of saying, ah, you know. So I do understand when people say, if so-and-so didn't say something during quarantine, I have a problem with that. So I'm the artist, right? Being an artist, how do you feel about when artists don't say anything? Do you feel some type of way about that yourself?
Well, I think you articulated it very well. You have a platform. What I will say to that is that since you have a platform, and we in the media have a platform, so we have to be very careful with
Yeah.
the message we put out. And we have to be very careful at all times. And if we're going to put out a message, especially us in the media, it has to be truly fair and balanced. And this idea of taking sides should not be in the media. A reporter is supposed to present the information. He's supposed to present the news and not tell you what the news is, not tell you his opinion of what the news is.
I love that. And it's so funny because people want me to weigh on so many things. And I had to tell somebody, I said, hey, what you're not going to do is get on my platform and now create your own platform. Don't do that. I'm telling you what my narrative is through what I posted. You and everybody else can weigh in on what you think that is, that's fine because it's freedom of speech and everybody has a right to look at your Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. But I understand that there definitely has to be balance, because without that, then there comes this misunderstanding of what you're trying to truly say. And that's not what we want to do. I don't want to spend an hour going back and forth with you on Instagram now when this is what I was really trying to say right here.
And how about that? The great CeCe Peniston interviewing me on my program, asking me the tough questions.
I asked you.
What's up with that, girl? We got a problem.
But you know why I asked you that? Because you know what, as an artist, we don't get the other side. All we get is like we may get an Instagram like comment, but I don't really know how other people truly look at it as an artist. So for me, I really do want to know. Like, I want to know how people feel about it. So that's why I asked you. And I'm done asking. No more hard places.
CeCe, you can do whatever you choose to do. I mean, those voices. I mean, you just brought everything with you tonight. We wasn't ready for that. I'm gonna tell you right now, I wasn't ready for that.
Thank you. A lot of different little things that I do, but like I said, I like to kind of keep things to when it's done. Then I say, hey, I got this coming out, that coming out, because I used to do that before, and I don't want to do that no more. So, yeah.
Look, you met my boss backstage there, and he types in. He says it looks like CeCe is auditioning to host our next live stream.
What are we doing?
Oh man, you know what? We did get a warning about you, CeCe. I will tell you that.
Okay, so what was the warning? I'd like to know. So what was the warning?
The warning was that you were, like you said, 100. You keeping it real, and we appreciate that very much. And before we let you go,
Okay.
you have to tell us what can we. You mentioned a new song is coming out pretty soon, but what else can we expect? I know you're looking at some roles, something on the screen, but stuff that you can actually tell us about. What can you tell us that's coming up?
So I can definitely tell you that I'm working on new music, which I think you're gonna love. A skincare line. I can't put it out there yet, the name, all that, because I want to make sure trademark and everything is in place. A reality show that's coming up. I got the contract for a publishing deal that I got the contract for. If you looked on my Instagram, you saw something about pandemically single. So make sure you keep tuning into that. That's something fun for everybody who's watching. So just mainly those things. Working on a script, a lot of little things, but I just can't say everything. But it's all coming, and it'll be done soon.
Listen, do you always carry this energy? Or are you
You
just doing it for the black press?
No, no, no. You know what? I like to say that I'm optimistic. I like to say that I try to take the bad and turn it into something good. I'm always, even through the bad, I try to be grateful. I have my days where, you know what, I'm human and I may not have this energy, but on like 9 times out of 10, I'm this person. Like, I like to listen to music. I like to feel good. I like to make other people feel good. So,
Yeah, because right now I can't imagine like you like putting the Vaseline on the face and taking the nails off and ready to,
I promise you, there's been a moment with the bonnet and all that. I'm like, I just don't get out. You know why I don't do that? Because I was like, that'll be the one picture they're going to use throughout the whole pandemic is the one jacked up picture when you have been dressed for the last 5 months. So I don't do it. It'll be mean, you know?
It has been an absolute privilege, a joy to have CeCe Peniston, the legendary CeCe Peniston, tonight. We really appreciate you. This has been another installment of our Black Music Appreciation Month, recognizing the great talent that Black musicians have always had and have freely shared. On Tuesday, next Tuesday, we're going to have Big Daddy Kane, and
Hey,
then stepping girl.
he was for real. People don't know that Big Daddy Kane was in there. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And then on Wednesday, we are going to have Ziggy Marley join us. So it should be a fun week too.
I love all the artists. Thanks again for having me on. And Thomasino Capital Public Relations, thank you so much for, giving me love. And I thank you and your platform. So thank you for having me again. And have a beautiful Friday. Happy Friday.
You too. The great CeCe Peniston. Thanks for joining us. Everybody stay safe and stay well.
Thank you.